I am staying in an old house in a small fishing village for 2 months. And up to recently, there was a couple that lived in this house. And they passed away just I think 6 months apart. And it's not a glamorous house. There's old furniture and uh, there's a not a painting but a kind of knitted decoration on the wall in a frame of an old farmhouse, and there's a horse pulling a cart down the street. There's a framed picture of a lane amongst some trees and a poem about how the poet can create a poem, but only God can create a tree, and another painting, another picture about memory lane and how the memories are sweet if you live in the moment. And there is a nice feeling about this place. And I found out that at least the woman that lived here, she was born in the house next door to this one. And she lived for a while in the house that's next door on the other side of this one. And then her husband and her, they bought this plot of land together between these two houses, built their own house, and lived until they died. And there's a feeling of rootedness here. People they built their dream together here. And it wasn't built, it was real. It was real. Around this house there's a series of terraces. The garden is organized in a series of terraces and growing there. One has corn on it, another one has an apple tree, there are onions, there are tomatoes, raspberry bushes. They lived here, and it's real, and they grew some things and they ate them. And I can't help but look through the house a little bit. Well, my little daughter, she's going around going through everything, and she found downstairs in the basement there's this. It looks like a large chest, but you open it, you open the lid, and there's a record player there, and there's an amplifier mounted in there, and there's speakers built into the front, so it's a whole contained unit, the size of a coffee table. And to go with it, there's a collection of old records. I don't know these singers. Well, I think one was Anne Murray, which is familiar, but some older ones, names I haven't heard of, look kind of cheesy, kind of World War II-ish. So I decided to put on a record. On the front cover, the name of the album is Aloha, and on the front cover there's a guy with his hair slicked back and a mustache and one of those Hawaiian flower shirts. And he's smiling broadly. And there's a series of 8-9 songs on this record, and they're all about the love of Hawaii and the beauty of the sunshine and the wind and the surf, and I placed actually I didn't. It's a mechanism, so you put the record in, you press a button, and the arm comes out, and it sets itself down with a crackle, and you get this music. And because of the physicality of the mechanism, the needle, you see the needle go down, and I know how the whole thing works. There are bumps on the record, and the needle vibrates, and that gets picked up, and how the record first was made. It put me in touch with this guy whose image is on the on the sleeve of this record. And he's no longer alive. I mean, this was probably recorded maybe as much as 80 years ago. I don't know how long ago. But it really put me in touch with how his voice was captured, and the vibration was put onto this vinyl, this physical object, and now it's playing again off of the needle. It feels so real. And you have this handmade wooden record player. Well, not the whole record player, some of it is plastic, but it's so solid. And it made me think about how if I had the MP3 of the same music and I plugged it into my portable speakers or whichever, and I played the music, it wouldn't be the same. Even if it crackled the same way, it wouldn't be the same. Because it would be an imitation of this experience. And the experience wasn't just in listening to the song. The song wasn't that great. It's dated, it's cheesy. But when you listen to it on that old record player, it gives you a whole feeling. For some reason, I was associating it with like old military people sitting in Hawaii there and listening to this and sipping their whatever pina coladas or margaritas or whatever they'd be drinking there. And it transports you. It gives you a feeling. It's so rich. And an MP3 captures the sound close enough that my ear wouldn't be able to tell the difference. If I close my eyes, and whether it's the MP3 or the record, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And that's the point. That's how MP3s came to be. It was decided, the culture believed that the essence of the music is the sound. So let's sample the sound, and we'll use a bit rate that is high enough so that the ear cannot hear the difference anymore. And we want this to be as convenient as possible. We want the file to be small. So we'll cut out the range of sound which the human ear is incapable of hearing. So we get a nice small file, and we'll put it onto a little portable player, and ta-da, you have it now in the palm of your hand. And you think you have it, but you don't. You have some of it. You have as much of that original experience, which that's what was great, as you have of you have as much of that original experience in the MP3 as you have of a hamburger when you go to McDonald's. It's not really a good hamburger. It's not really tasty. It's not very flavorful. It's processed. It's not the same as taking fresh ground beef and making it all yourself and adding all the sauces nice and fresh, and that's a real hamburger. But we kind of boil it down, and we're glad that we don't have to wait for it, and we make it convenient, easily accessible, and we think we have it. And in the same manner, our lives have been boiled down to, our ancestors used to live in large houses, on farms, used to grow their own food. If you go further back in time, you get a different scenario. But now we live in tiny little apartments. I think the majority of humanity, it was announced like a decade ago or something, that now the majority of human beings, they live in major cities, no longer out in rural areas. So more and more of humanity gets crammed into a little cube, and they have their television, and they think they're living the life. They think because they can go down to the supermarket and they can buy all this food that it's great. But then you taste the tomato, and it's not really flavorful because it gets picked prematurely. And they do things to the food to make it look nice. All the colors are nice and it looks unblemished, but the flavor, it's lacking the flavor. We take the first thing that hits us, music, the first thing that hits us is the initial sound. So we just take that, being superficial, we take the surface of it. And we take it, we package it, we make it look nice, and we make that available. And we boil it down, we make it convenient and smaller and faster and all of that. But what we are left with is impoverished. Living in that little cube, going out and finding sex through a dating site or at the club is not the same as a relationship that's built up over time with the girl next door or the one that you meet in the library or wherever. It's not the same. It's not the same. Botox injected skin and boob jobs and plastic surgery and colored hair and makeup and all of that is not the same as a wholesome, fresh face and the personality to go with it. It's not the same. It's this imitation. We are distancing ourselves. I guess the first abstraction is language, that you represent things as words, and it's easy to get confused. It's easy to get confused. You think the word is the real thing. You think the facsimile, the imitation is the real thing. People used to live in communities. They used to know, like intimately know well, a group of people. Now people know the characters on the local reality show better than their own neighbor in their apartment building. And they think they have a life, but it is an impoverished version of it. And we do this with everything. It's where our life is getting us to. And the whole reason why I was motivated to make this recording, I've been thinking about this for a while, is that there is this kind of term saying, being real, something that is real. Real is the real thing, a real personality, a real smile, real caring, person caring for another person, real food, real music, a real life experience, a real love, a genuineness. And we are given a certain ideal. We want to be youthful, we want to be wealthy, we want to be powerful and glamorous people, but we, rather than being that, we accumulate the symptoms of it. If you're wealthy, you have a nice car, so then we indebt ourselves. We have a nice car so that we look wealthy, but we're not. We're actually indebted. We want to be healthy and strong, and we want to look as if we're trim and fit. But then we have all this fat around our bodies because we're not eating well. So we get surgery. We get the fat sucked out, and the skin tucked, so that we look like we're trim and fit, but we're not. And on it goes. But what is it that you can have somebody who is 90 years old and their skin is full of wrinkles and their body is old, they might have trouble walking, but when they smile, they have a twinkle in their eye. They have they connect with you. They're not selfish. There is a youthfulness and openness there. I'm just assuming there is such an example here. And it's not in the physicality, in the way they look, that makes them youthful. Seeing them across the room, you're not going to know they are youthful and bright and full of vigor and full of goodness. They might not have all those symptoms that you associate, and it takes the time and the effort to actually get to know them and to go beyond the superficial. And then you find out what is really underneath. The same way that somebody who looks beautiful and you think they're all that at a distance on paper, you get to know them. You actually see that is all just a facade. It's good to know this. As children, somebody may live a long time until they figure this out. They may never figure it out. They may think the superficiality is all there is, and never pause for long enough to feel deeper, to get to know somebody else on a deeper level, to get to know life on a deeper level, to develop the wonder of life. I think we should take more time to do these things.